It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Just had a mad coughing fit before we started, so that was good. Hello and welcome along to the Rangers Rabble Podcast. This is your match reaction after Rangers comfortably beat Kilmarnock 4-1 at Ibrox. VAR decisions, red cards, penalties, diving, commentary. It wouldn't be Scottish football if we didn't have it all. So we'll get into that and much more. Please get your comments in regardless of which platform you're choosing to watch this on, whether it's X or Twitter or Facebook or what's the other one? What am I forgetting? YouTube. God, the main one. YouTube. Get your comments in. I'm having a bad day, folks. And make sure you like and subscribe and do all that good stuff as well. I'm joined again by Kieran, who was on the post-match, and Davie. Davie, mate, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Martin. I could be better, obviously, but I'm sure we'll pick away at the bones of that. But for me, I know you were kind of touching on some of the points in the pre-match in regards to negativity. And obviously, it's a 4-1 victory. It keeps the goal difference the same, but for me, still leaves us a massive task in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I tell you what, we'll jump in straight away, right? As Davie, as you went on the post-match, I'll just come to you first. And look, 4-1 on most other days, a 4-1 win at home, we all come away happy. I got the impression from yourself before we started that you still aren't over the moon. What did you think of the result, the performance, individual performances, etc., etc.?
I think if you take the first half into context in terms of how we played, we started well. First sort of, 4 or 5 minutes, I thought that Cantwell and Sterling got the press right, and the two of them seemed to be letting us get higher up the pitch, and we're playing in and around Kilmarnock's box. But for me, again, in the first half especially, every time it got to John Lundstrom, I felt that it was slowing the game down and we were far too pedestrian. I felt Diamande at times was trying to do too much. And I think if we're all being honest, I thought our captain had a very slow start again, which seems to have been, his sort of raison d'etre in recent weeks. He has been very below par for me. And for much of the season, he has got us out of difficult spots, but there's a complete drop-off in how he's defending again. And for some reason, why we still can't defend the back post from a simple cross ball is something that really worries me, because as we know, better teams really punish you. And I felt that is such a poor goal to lose. If you were an amateur pub team playing Sunday League football, you'd be raging in the dressing room that you lost a goal like that. And for such a seasoned professional in James Tavernier to not get tight, but not even just that, Borna Barisic allowing the cross to come in for Danny Armstrong. You know what he's going to do? He's going to fake right and then switch it on his left, to keep the ball moving, and it just stands off him. And Lundstrom, is standing next to him but making no impact on the Kilmarnock player. And for me, it's just warning signs. I think we're just floating along at the moment, floating along and hoping for the best. But see, to have any sort of realistic chances of winning this title or to put a dent in Celtic's confidence at the moment, especially after Brendan Rodgers was sort of fever pitch yesterday after they won, what you need to do is you need to sort of put the frighteners up them. And let's be honest, we played 70 minutes plus against 10 men. And realistically, we should have been looking to apply the pressure goal difference wise going into next week, because even if we win now, that affords Celtic the luxury, if we get a 1-0 victory next week, that they win their next two games, they're champions regardless. I just don't see goals in this Rangers team, and the fact that Ben Davies and John Souttar were the first to react in the box in the second half, for me, tells everything that you need to.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with much of that. We'll bring it back a bit, Kieran, and Davey says we did start well, which is unusual for us. I mean, I think Kilmarnock came forward in the very early stages, and it was a long shot, and we were asking, are we going to give away an easy chance? But we gave him a long shot. We didn't give him a 2-yard tap-in, which a lot of us were worried about. But then, we were bright. And then there was a VAR review for a possible penalty for handball. What was your take on it, Kim?
It's not a penalty. You can't do anything. It's so close where it happens. The ball just comes up, unfortunately, catches him. It's not a penalty. He can't move his hand anywhere. So I think the referee got it. It was an absolute joke, was the length it took for it to be given as just play on kind of thing. It just seems to be consistent. Every little VAR decision seems to take about 15, 20 minutes. It seems like even like 2 or 3 minutes. It's becoming an absolute joke, to be honest.
It's nearly as bad as Kieran's Wi-Fi there, Dave, isn't it? It's something
I think he must be on my Wi-Fi now.
I don't know.
But play devil's advocate on the penalty incident. I think if you take it back to John Souttar against Benfica, if that's in the Europa League, I think you get that first penalty because his arm is out. Now, I know it's right next to him, but his arm is out and out away from his body. It's below the T-shirt line. And I think if that's a European fixture, that penalty is given. I think David Dickinson's went to look at the monitor there and decided that how he saw it in real time is the fact that there's no enough space between the Rangers player and the Kilmarnock player in that incident. But for me, if that's a European fixture, you get it. And we've seen 2 or 3 of a similar nature go against us this season. John Souttar against Kilmarnock.
Can I just argue with you on that slightly, Dave? Right? The reason it's not a penalty for me is because the way that his body is, his arm's already there, right? If we take it back to, if we jump forward to the sending off and the penalty for that, no, we jump forward to the sending off, sorry, in the actual penalty. For me, he slightly moves his hand towards the ball and he stops an obvious goal scoring chance. So for me, that's right. But the one that we didn't get, the one that the referee went over to the monitor and made his own mind up, for me, I don't know what the handball rule is anymore. Right? I don't think anybody can explain what the handball rule actually is anymore. But for me, he's in a natural position because he's already in that position before the ball comes anywhere near him. So for me, that's why that's not a penalty. Had the ball came off Sterling and he's that close and his hand goes up or down and then hits the ball, then for me, that's a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, personally, for me, I can understand why it wasn't given, and I've got no arguments against that. But I'm simply playing devil's advocate in the fact that 2 or 3 of a similar nature have went against us. Again, the reverse fixture at Ibrox, Suter, Kilmarnock, penalty given. John Lundstrom, when he stood up at Rugby Park and gave turned his back on it, penalty given. The fact is, yes, there's not a lot of space that travels, but his arm is out. And then what you need to contextualise in that incident for me as well is that Dujon Sterling's in possession of the ball in an attacking phase of play inside the opposition's penalty box. So if the Kilmarnock player doesn't touch the ball with his hand in that ball, where's the ball going? Because Sterling's still in control of it. So, yep, understand.
Would you argue it's going away from goal, though?
I mean, you could argue that, but then is it a goal-scoring opportunity? Because is he coming back inside to lay the ball off to somebody who has got a clear shot at goal? These are all the factors that you need to take into consideration. And like I said, whilst I've got no arguments with the penalty not being given, I think if that's a European fixture, you get it.
Again, I can't argue with you because it tends to be that the decisions in Europe are completely different from what you get in your own league. Maybe there should just be a unified rule for everybody. Maybe that would make life a lot easier. But Davie, you said that we started well, and we did. And then you kind of mentioned it there in your monologue. But I mean, is it Borna that's at fault? Is it Jack Butland that's at fault? Is it Tav that's at fault? Whoever it is that's at fault, we keep giving away just easy goals.
I think everybody that you mentioned there is at fault, and I don't like to criticise Jack Butland too much, but perhaps he should be taking command of that situation. I think both him and Tav get caught under the ball slightly and they misjudge the flight of the ball, and that's why they get caught in the positions that they're in. But before it even gets to that, this is the thing with Borna Barisic playing for Rangers. He's far too passive a defender. And we all know, like I said there in my earlier rant, we know what Danny Armstrong's got to do. He's shaping his body right to turn left and move the ball back inside. And John Lundstrom's standing next to him just watching, whereas Lundstrom should be 4 or 5 yards away from Barisic and pressing the Kilmarnock player that the cross comes from. And as I say, it's just calamity. I'm pretty sure I said last time I was on a week or so ago that Rangers don't lose good goals. We've got a back catalogue this season of losing horrendous goals, which are all preventable for me. And they're preventable if we all do the basics well. And it seems to be our positions from cross balls this season is just a thing that we cannot defend well. And hopefully come the summer, it gets addressed. But we've still got important games left this season. And if you're the opposition, that's where you would look to target Rangers.
Well, Aldo channel members saying the 2 fullbacks we have at the moment are the worst I have ever seen in my time watching Rangers, and that's since 1985. I do have to slightly disagree with Aldo in terms of some of the players that we've seen when we were coming back up through the leagues. But Davie, is this the worst fullbacks that we've had?
Well,
since 1985?
I don't think they're the worst fullbacks we had. I seem to remember, well, you're saying since we've been in the top league, but there was a Greek boy, Aristides Aragiou or something like that, and Sebastian Faure, who was a centre-half come right back. They were absolutely honking, so let's not go back there. But for me, it's always the weak point in James Tavernier's game is defensively, and I think what really hurts Tavernier is how he is, positionally. I think he often takes up the wrong position and his body shape's all wrong. And we all know the problem with Borna is the way that he's always been. He's far too passive. Every time a winger squares up against him and looks to run him on the outside, that's Borna Barisic's worst part of his game is backtracking. So defensively, I think we've got major reconstruction that's needed come the summer. And I just don't think that there's a commanding leader anywhere in that back line that's willing to take ownership of any situation. And for me, that's worrying because we all talk about this leadership group that we have, and 2 of the back 4 for much of this season are included in that, and Goldson and Tavernier. And again, they're both culpable for the vast majority of goals that we have lost this season.
Charles, I've got your super chats, buddy. I will bring them up shortly because I want to try and fit it into the conversation that we're having. So I will bring these super chats up. Although one thing that we're often not accused of is people's opinions, Davey, and it's something that we should talk about, something that we should address. And smoke my draw. When the team wins, we should celebrate, not kangaroo court our players.
I mean, I'm delighted we won, but you have to take into consideration everything that's happened this season. We had the league within our own grasp, especially after beating Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. And any time there's been pressure applied to this group of players, we seem to have faltered. And the games against Ross County and Dundee at Dens Park are inexcusable. And I don't buy into the manager's sort of spiel that we played well at Dens. We didn't. We were honking. It was a horrible game to watch. And when the league was in our grasp, we have contrived a way to then throw it away and hand it back to Celtic. And, you know, a 4-1 victory is decent today, but does it put the title back in our hands? No, it doesn't. We really had to score, 7 more than Kilmarnock to really apply the pressure to Celtic next week. Because see, a 1-0 victory next week doesn't matter who you are and how much you like beating them. In the context of the league title, and yes, they do have to go to Rugby Park, but they've got course and distance with numerous players, and we don't. So for me, I take Smoke's point, but nah, 4 wasn't good enough, especially with them down to 10 men. We had to get more to really apply pressure.
I get what you're saying, and maybe if we hadn't conceded a goal and we won 4 or 5, it may be a different conversation, David. But saying 7's a bit harsh.
No, I'm not saying. I mean, it's unexpected that we would have got 7. We haven't been playing well enough, in any game recently to expect 6 or 7. But what I'm saying is, in order to apply the pressure, we really did have to score 6 or 7 because, as I say, it might be unlikely, but we could win next week and we might sneak a 1-0 or a 2-1. But nah, it's in order to really put pressure on them, because you can tell by the way their manager is speaking in the press, they're very relaxed going into next week. They fancy their chances against us. They look at us like cannon fodder. So today, for me, with them being down to 10 men, was a big opportunity missed.
Yeah, no, listen, I get that, especially not so much the second half, but the rest of the first half performance after they go down to 10 men, we were pretty powder puff, and when Tav missing that penalty, it seemed to deflate the team even more if that's possible, Davey. But we did get a penalty. Kilmarnock did have a man sent off. Any arguments for you on that?
No, because it's denying a clear and obvious goal-scoring opportunity. That's why he was sent off. That's what the red card merited. And as you said, Martin, if you look at it, it does look like he moves his hand towards the ball. I know that people will argue the close proximity argument, but I don't think there's any contentious issue there about the referee awarding a penalty and a red card penalty all day long.
Yeah, I don't think there's any arguments for that either. And of course, David, then the captain, James Tavernier, steps up and misses. And as soon as he misses, people are out with the stats of how many penalties he's missed this season. Should somebody else be taking penalties, etc., etc.? People miss penalties. And I get it's frustrating because at that point in the game, we're 1-0 down. They've just went down to 10 men. You think, right, if we score now, we can get another quick one. Come on, maybe try and come out, try and salvage a draw. We can go on and score a few more goals. So I get the frustration, David, but people do miss penalties.
I think for me, what I would say about the penalties that James Tavernier's missed this season is it seems to be the pressure one that he misses. And that's a worry for me. I remember, earlier on in the season, he had a spell, about 3 or 4 games on the bounce in which he got them. He seemed to go through a wee phase where he missed one after the other. And it is a concern for me because step him up next week, if he was to get one, a chance where you'd want him to take it, then there'll be question marks and pressure applied over it. of course, on the whole, his Rangers career, he does have a terrific record. However, if I was a manager of a football team, I've always took the rule, because in any team that I grew up playing in, anytime you missed one, you were off them. And I don't understand why that doesn't seem to apply in modern day football.
No, sorry, I had another coughing fit there. This is going great, isn't it? I mean, I suppose you've got to give the keeper a bit of credit as well. It was a great save, Davie, but people just expect when you've got a penalty, you've got to score it. But it was a really good save.
Yeah, I think
I'm just trying to look for anything to have a wee get out.
No, Will Dennis has had a great season for Kilmarnock, to be honest. He's probably a large part of why they've comfortably got fourth position. But I think he sort of telegraphed it. I think if you're looking at Tavernier's shape and body position there, you knew where it was going before he hit it. And I think the keeper got a good read on it, but he got a strong hand to it. He wasn't full stretch. So it was probably going in the corner or just thereabouts. But yeah, terrific save from the keeper. But I mean, I know there's people in the comments saying that you can't look at Tav's record in penalties, but he has missed a few this season. So did we just allow him, any number of penalties missed this season? I'm always of the opinion, if you miss them, you're off them and you give it to somebody else. And I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and Thomas is saying, should the pen have been retaken, keeper came off his line. The replay showed that his foot was behind the line. So no, it was a good save, and it was a legal save. So yeah. You know what? I don't know what's going on, David. We've won 4-1 today, right? And I still feel scunnered for some reason. I don't know why, but look, anyway, the rest of this, we missed the penalty. The rest of the first half happens. I don't think we realistically played that well, but probably the biggest goal of the season so far. And I had a go at Silva before the game. I think we've all had a go at Silva. I don't think he's been anywhere near good enough in a Rangers jersey, Davie. But he does brilliantly for the goal, and that's the wee moments of quality that the guy has. I
think the pass for Lundstrom there also changed his sort of impact on the game, because he then looked in the second half to get more on the ball. It perhaps gave him the confidence boost that he was needing. It was a great pick out for John Lundstrom, and Silva does well. He get in behind Mayo, and it's a terrific finish. I have to say though, and it seems that we've all been criticising Fabio Silva recently, I've no idea why he levels a game against 10 men Kilmarnock at 1-1 just before half-time. He turns to the fans in the Broomland and goes like that with his jersey. If you score the winner at Parkhead that wins us the league, fair enough. But no, when you've pulled us back at 1-1 against, 10 men Kilmarnock, he's no done enough for me this season as a Rangers player. I think we've seen in recent weeks he goes down too easily. He doesn't get himself in the right positions. And if you're scoring every week or a hat-trick every week, then by all means, turn your jersey to the fans and go like that all you like. If you're a George Alberts, for example, you can do it as much as you like. But Fabio Silva has got no divine right to turn around and do that. And to me, that's unbecoming of a Rangers player. You don't do that at Ibrox.
I'll be brutally honest with you, and I'm probably in the minority here. That doesn't bother me one bit. See if that's him saying, look, I'm Silva, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I've scored the goal, I'm gonna go in and play better. Whether he does or whether he doesn't, that to me shows a player who's got confidence. And it also shows a player who's probably listening to what everybody's saying about him. And that's his way of going, well, I don't care, I'm going to keep going. I know I will be in the minority. I know I will be. But that doesn't really bother me that much.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
I mean, I take your point. That is kind of the Portuguese mentality, and I hope I'm not offending any Portuguese viewers that are in the comments, but they do have that sort of arrogance about themselves. But he has to do it on a more consistent basis, and he needs to do it in games that matter. We could have done with a goal like that against Dundee, and we could have certainly done with an impact like that when we were trying to rescue the game against Ross County. But to do it against 10 men when you're just getting yourself back into the game, no. I mean, if that was the one that was the fourth, then by all means. But, you know, there's an argument there to say it was just wrong place, wrong time.
No, and I get that. And like I say, I'm probably in the minority, but it just doesn't bother me. And Robert Clark's making the point I was trying to make, Davey. Coming away for Ibrox after a 4-1 win should feel better than this.
I think that's partly the sort of argument that I'm coming from, Martin. I think we're all just still recovering for recent results and the drop-off in level of performances in recent weeks. I think you can tell in the way that we want to play football when we've not got natural width. And what I mean by that is natural wingers playing in the wide positions is a massive impact on how we play. We just kind of run out of ideas, and then everything has to go through Cantwell at that point, and he can't do it all on his own because teams then double up on him, and there's no options for anybody else, you know, to come and take the game by the scruff of the neck. Because, for example, Lundstrom is a defensive midfielder that likes to play closer to the centre halves than the 10. And again, I think that's why we saw Diomande getting frustrated in the first half, because the onus is on him, but there's nobody showing for the ball. And Dujon Sterling wins almost every 50-50, and he's great running off the ball, tremendous. But with the ball at his feet, he's not the best at having the composure to pick out the right pass at the right time. And I think that's the frustration middle to front of Rangers just now. It's all just congested, running towards Cantwell, and there's kind of zero end product coming off for us at the moment.
Well, we've all discussed Cantwell in a wee minute, because when they brought Lawrence on, my immediate thought was, I've no issue with Lawrence coming on, but why are you taking Cantwell off? Lawrence obviously then shows why, but we'll discuss that in a minute. I want to bring up one of Charles's super chats, the first one. Dessers should hit 3 chances first time. That's a difference in quality, in striker quality. They can do the basics, and I have to admit, Davey, I have tried my best to defend Cyril Dessers. I've said, look, the guy's got 20 goals. He's scored some important goals, but there's just, again, there's been too many examples like today where he's in. It's not that he's taking shots and he's missing. It's that he's in the right positions several times and he's making the complete wrong decisions. He's not making decisions that a striker makes.
Yeah, I think his numbers, if we're to take that in isolation, certainly don't tell you the story. I've said on this podcast before that your eyes don't lie to you. So what you're seeing is what you're seeing. And he's just not of the sufficient quality we need at Rangers. And his goals, yes, have probably went a long way to keeping us in with a shout. But everything breaks down when it goes to him. And when he's against a robust centre half, he really doesn't win the physical battle often enough for a player of his stature, size, physique should. His shot selection, his choice of pass at times, you know, is not great. I think he's best when he's got as little time to think about what he's got to do. And then the minute he's got time to think, he starts doubting and questioning himself. He hangs on to the ball far too long. And then by that time, the opportunity's gone. And if you're to think about it, if a chance is to fall to him, you know, next week, you're not going to back him to take it.
No. And even today, though, there was the one where Diomande puts him through and he's not got time to think, but he still drags it back. He's on his strong foot, Davey. Hit the ball. Yeah. Just shoot for goal.
And you can't question it.
Even if the keeper saves it, Davey, he's trying to drag it back. Somebody put, I think it was on Twitter or something, somebody put, he's trying to use his feet like R9 used to, and he can't. He can barely get the ball out his feet. So why is he dragging that back when it's a simple, easy shot across the goalkeeper?
Well, that's what we're all seeing as fans. We're questioning that, and none of us have played to the level that certainly he has. But again, his decision making for a player that's played in the top flight in Belgium, Holland, and Italy, and now with us, and obviously he's played European football, was the Conference League top scorer in its inaugural season. You're not seeing it. And again, to pay that sort of money for a guy that's 29, 30, you can't teach him to get any better than he is. What you see is what you've got, and you're stuck with it. And for me, I think that's large part of your problem, because we can't rely on him. We've got tidy players like Cantwell in and around the box, and just Dessers isn't on the same wavelength as him mentally, so he can't play in and around them because he can't rely on Dessers. It's sort of hit and hope. If it comes off for Dessers, it comes off for him, and 9 times out of 10 it really hasn't when it's mattered this season.
Well, I'm all one for our members having a go at me, because at the end of the day, they're my boss, right? So I'll bring this up, Davie, for Socrates. You two are talking pish. Big Dessers never hides. Every striker misses half chances. Do you want a £100 million player for a couple of million?
Well, Dessers for me, as we've just already argued, I just don't see it for him as a Rangers player. I think Dessers would be sort of maybe more liked if he wasn't, the top dog, the number one striker that we have. And I just think there's much better quality out there. There's better quality within the league and other teams out with Celtic. I was texting, my brother during the game, and I was saying, if Marley Watkins and Kyle Vassell were in the Rangers squad this season, then we'd probably be in a better position than we are. And I don't mean to say as them starters. I just think they're better squad options in terms of how they hold the ball up and get your team higher up the pitch and get you into better areas. Look at the positions they take off the ball. They're clever. They've got clever movement. Dessers, for me, hasn't got any of that. I think he's lucky the fact that he's got the certain amount of goals that he's got this season, because you're at Rangers and 9 times out of 10 you're playing against slightly worse opposition every week. And granted, he needs to get himself in the positions, and I take that point for his numbers. But if we are to progress and we are to be champions, we need a better player than Cyril Dessers to lead the line. I don't think there's any question of that.
Well, Thomas actually makes a good point. If we bought another striker, he'd probably get injured. At least Dessers is always fit.
He's robust enough, Martin. He is, and he does always put himself in there. And you can't argue that, but we have to be realistic, and it doesn't look at this moment in time that we are going to win the league title. We're certainly not favourites with 3 games to go, and we need better than Cyril Dessers if we've to progress next season. He is not the answer.
Well, I mentioned injuries there. Half time, I just seen Davies coming on the pitch, and for some reason my head, I had to go and do the dishes at half time because my missus will be home soon, and I was told if you don't get that done, you're in trouble. So I had to go and do that. So I came back out in the living room and I seen Davies in the park, and I went, oh, he's took Bonner off and he's put Davies at left back. But no, Leon Balogun has picked up a knock, Davie. So it's Gold's in it and now Balogun's out. So it's looking good.
Well, I know Ian Crocker had said on commentary, because I watched it in Sky, that he just took a knock to his back and he was took off as a precaution. That was certainly the word that they had got. Now, for me, if you're to take that in isolation, that's probably a worry going into next week, because Balogun is the one defender in our back line that has the recovery pace, and we're no doubt going to play with a high line at Parkhead next week, and Balogun would be key to that. If Ben Davies plays, it then puts John Souttar on his natural right-hand side, and he's probably more comfortable playing that way. But Ben Davies has missed a lot of football. There's got to be a player in there somewhere, but I don't know if next week would be the right game for him in terms of, I think he is frightened players with pace. And I think that's how you can get us next week. And I think I would just be more comfortable with that game if Balogun was in position to play. But again, we can't risk him. We're down to sort of the bare bones. But what I will say, I do agree with what Aldo McNaught's saying in the comments. He did have a solid 45 minutes. For somebody that's not kicked a ball since December, he never really put a foot wrong. But again, we need to contextualise that because we were playing against 10 men.
Well, people are going to jump on. I'm happy for Ben Davies to come in against Celtic now, aren't they? Because as Aldo's saying, look, I tell you what, I thought, and Aldo McNaught and Aldo channel member, tell you what, I thought Davies looked decent in the second half, albeit against 10 men. And he was in the right place at the right time to put his 2-1 up.
That's what I was saying earlier. You know, it shocked me that the two players that were quickest to react for rebounds in the second half were our centre halves. But you have to say it was a great finish, and he was quick to react, and he looked delighted to get the goal. I think it was a big confidence boost for him. It was his first goal for us since joining the club, and I think the money that we've spent on him, you'd like to think that there's a player in there somewhere, Martin. There hasn't been many bids come in for him. I know if you believe, and you're not meant to believe everything that you read on social media, but he has had, major family problems this season, and perhaps that has played a part in it. However, he might need to be used between now and the end of the season. And if Balogun isn't fit, then he'll be in possession of the jersey, and you just hope that gives him an important confidence booster. Him and Suter looked fairly solid together, but as Robert Clark alludes to in the comments, they've both got PSD from trips to Parkhead on separate occasions.
Well, let's hear from the manager, shall we? Because I think he's had a little bit to say on this whole having fun comment, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe he does. So he spoke to Sky Sports after today's game. Let's hear what our manager had to say.
Well done. How do you sum up that victory?
A lot of VAR today in the first half, and for me, a strange thing that we didn't get a penalty in the beginning of the game. We had some penalties against for less this season, but my team kept on pushing whatever the circumstances were, and we started really well the game. We directly the pressure on them, getting chances, getting that opportunities, but then you need that small part of luck. Then you get one ball in your box, and you get a goal against falling out of the sky. For the rest, Jack didn't have to do too many saves, a few distance shots, but for the rest, nothing in this game. So we were dominant all game, and you deserve to score 4 goals, and it could have been more than 4 also today.
How key was it getting that goal just before halftime?
No, key. Of course, it's important to go halftime with 1-1, but even if it was 0-1, our resilience stays there, and we're going to keep on fighting. We had it before also that it was 0-1, and we won afterwards because we kept on going. So in the heads of my players, it will not make a difference. But of course, you want to score as fast as possible the equalizer.
How tough is that to make sure you get the balance between being patient, not over-forcing it, but also being on the front foot and keeping the tempo high?
No, that's difficult, and a lot of teams struggle to play against them, to score a lot of goals because of that, because they lower down their tempo or they lose their structure. We created enough today to score more than 4 goals, and we had a few really good goals, really good combinations, really good finishing. So, it's confirmation of the last weeks again. It's a pity that we had a few days with less quality, but you see everybody stepping into the team, also guys coming in today, making the difference. So we're going to battle hard until the end.
Before the game, you said you wanted the team to be clinical. When you score 4 goals, are you satisfied with that? Was that clinical enough, or do you feel you could have been more clinical today?
It could have been more, but I put the standards high, and we need to grow as a club, to grow as a team. So we need to be better, to be more clinical in situations. But if I see how much we create, today. It's again step forwards with a few months ago, and we need to keep on growing and developing. You cannot forget also that we don't have today 3 important wingers, 1 important striker. So we will miss a lot of players on our offensive side. And the guys who stepped in, they did a good job in that way, and they worked hard for the team to create these chances.
You mentioned the VAR decisions. This handball rule, again, seems to be an issue that's not going away. Is it a problem with the way the VAR and the referees are implementing it, do you feel? Or is it something to do with the law itself?
I think the law is too complicated. I think everybody wants to have simpler rules, every manager in the world. Simpler rules in that way and more clear. So, that's something to decide from FIFA or UEFA, not from us. And I understand for VAR and for referees, it's difficult to decide now because they have to think about so many things. But it's about consistency. And if you look back, the penalty we get against Kilmarnock in the first part of the season, it was much less a penalty than this one. But it is what it is. You need to accept and you need to look forward and forget this during the game and keep on going to do what you can do, what you can control. And that my players did.
A huge game next week. How much more improvement do you need going to Celtic Park to get that win, do you feel?
I don't know improvement. It's a totally different game. But I hear yesterday that they're going to have fun. So we're going to have fun also.
I love that wee part and comment, Davie, and we've got to jump straight into that. Right, we'll come back to the game in a minute. Right, loads of people are saying, and you know what, they're probably right in saying that Brendan Rodgers can say what he wants because this team of players will never stand up and never be counted. They've not got the heart, they've not got the desire, and he knows that he can say what he wants, and probably get away with it. Right, let's be honest. But I love the fact that our manager is coming back and showing a bit of character. It would be easy for him just to ignore that to go into next week's game because he knows by saying that if Celtic pump us next week, that's going to get played and replayed.
Absolutely. I think you want to see fight, and far too often this season, whether it be certain players, and it just doesn't have to be this season. We can go back, the same way with Beale and Gio. They were far too passive for me. So I've been critical of Clement recently in terms of his press conferences because I think when you start going down the route of argument like Beale did, when you say, we've won the most points since I've come in, for me, that's just a null and void argument. Nobody wants to hear this. We're only interested in winning league titles, and anything that falls short of that, it doesn't really cut it for me. However, what I will say in defence of the manager, that for me was the first time where I've thought, right, okay, I like that. That to me was a throwback. I like to see that fight. It's kind of Jock Wallace-esque in terms of battle fever, and it's getting us up for it already because that's what you want. You want true leadership, somebody showing you the way, and he's sending the message to the dressing room now. So he's up for it. He's put the onus on his own players. Whether I think they'll respond with the same mentality is a different thing, but I think it's good to see that Clement gets that. I hope somebody from within Rangers media at the club is sort of sitting them down and saying, this is what you should say and this is what you shouldn't say in regards to, points totals since he's come in and all that. That's just a nonsense. But I think it's good that he's not letting Rodgers run free because he got a freebie earlier on in the season when he came out with his comment about there's been 5 Rangers managers and every time they've been coming, and that's one that he got away with. So it's nice to see that Clement is fighting back and not just, taking it.
Aye, and listen, mate, I completely agree. I said on the pre-match that I put a wee something up on social media with Rodgers' comments and hoping to get a few bites because I'm fed up with him doing it and us biting to him. So I thought I'm going to get a few bites, get a wee interaction, and get closer and closer to being able to build my extension. So that seemed to work out quite well. And look,
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Right, let's take the game into context, right? Let's strip back everything that's happening outside. Let's strip back where we are in the league. Let's strip back the games before it. The manager said that we were dominant for the full game, which I agree. He said that we created more than enough chances to win. We created more than enough chances to probably win 3 games. Do we have to actually just slightly bring it back a wee bit and say we went 1-0 down from a freak goal or a defensive mistake, whatever you want to call it. But after that, albeit we maybe didn't play great in the first half, we were still creating chances. The players were still on the front foot, and then we went on to get the win.
Yeah, I mean, in any part of the season, you're probably saying it's a decent enough, 90 minutes and a solid performance and a 4-1 victory against Kilmarnock. You'd take that 9 times out of 10. I think the problem is the fact that you're saying we should take away from all that. And at the moment, because we know we're going to Parkhead next week, needing a convincing victory to keep us still in with a shout in this title race, and the fact that we've no won there since Gerrard was manager is obviously weighing heavily on a lot of these players, I think. However, it was decent in spells. I think, unlike recent weeks, we did start well and we did look to press them right from the off. I was just a wee bit disappointed that we couldn't keep that going for the full 90 minutes. It seemed like when Kilmarnock scored, that spooked us for a bit, and we were a bit slow and playing within ourselves for far too long before we then realised, no, hang on a minute, we really need a goal here. And then the last sort of 5-6 minutes of the first half, we made a bit more of an effort for it. I think the Kilmarnock keeper, although he lost 4 goals, probably wasn't tested enough. And I think that's a frustration that will remain depending on how this season will pan out come the end of it.
I know, and this is why we sit behind the computer and talk about Rangers, and we play Football Manager, and we don't manage or coach a team. But he made a double change on the 68th minute. He brought Sterling and Cantwell off, and he brought McCausland and Lawrence on. Now, in my brain, I'm thinking I'm more than happy for Lawrence to come on. But if Lawrence comes on, I would have said for Silva. And if I would have kept Cantwell on the park, etc., etc. If I was bringing Ross on, I would have done something different, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't have done what the manager done, right? But shortly after he makes those substitutions, David, we actually look more threatening. We look like a better team. And Tom Lawrence, something that we've spoke about since from the day that he signed for the club, has that ability to score goals like that. And it's something that we've not seen from him. And Lawrence comes on the park, McCausland comes on the park. We look far more fluid. We look far more attacking, and Lawrence scores a peach.
That's, for me, why it frustrated me at Danes Park, because there was a free kick right in front of their goal just towards the end of the game, and Lawrence lined up to take it and then walked away from it and left Tav to hit it because he's got that in his locker. There has been a drop-off, though, in his performance of late, and he was rightly benched by Clement, so I've absolutely no arguments against that. However, he does have that in his game, and he is a bit more direct, and he will look to have shots in and around the box where far too many of our players will look to play that extra pass before even looking to take the shot on. However, you have to say it's a fantastic finish. It's a great goal, and we just haven't seen it often enough. Again, hopefully it's a confidence booster at the right time, but I don't know if he is an impact player or he's just not got the legs to do it week in, week out, because he's been hampered by injuries, the vast majority the last couple of years, and he's never really had a run in the team 6, 7, 8 games where he's had a consistent level of performance. I think once he starts to play 2 or 3 games, for me, he starts kind of blowing out his arse in the sense that he looks tired. And I don't know if that's just down to a lack of fitness, but he does have obvious quality. And for me, he's probably in the thought process for a start next week because he's got something that other players haven't.
Right, okay, let's discuss this, right? And in fact, really quickly, we play well, and then we finally score a goal from a corner. Big John Suter.
Yep, and again, he's the first person to react, Martin, and I think he needs that for his confidence.
In fact, was it a corner? I've just memories went blank. I don't think, was it a corner?
No, the John Suter one, was that? No, a rebound as well. No,
it was a rebound. I don't know why I said. I don't know idea why I said.
We had the Ben Davis, Tom Lawrence, and then John Suter. Now you've got me doubting myself about John Suter's
I'm
goal.
doubting mine, Brain.
But anyway, he took it well enough, Suter, and for me, he needs a wee bit of confidence because I think you've seen it in his face recently. There's been, I don't know, a drop off in terms of. I think we were getting the best out of John Suter when the ball starts with him and he's the one that moves it out for the back. But since he's been playing wrong side and been playing on the left, 9 times out of 10, Lundstrom's coming deep to take the ball off him. And I just think we break the lines much quicker when Suter's the guy that's taking the ball from Butland and looking to play it forward. And he's the best in our team at doing that. And I just think when he's on the ball, he can get us up the park much quicker. And maybe if Balogun is injured and he's playing on his natural side next week, it might help us in a footballing sense. But then you've got to caveat that with the fact that it'll probably be Davis beside them and they'll just look to play the ball in behind with Kyogo all the time. However, John Suter, for me, he's probably had a solid enough season for his first season at Rangers, but again, he's one of these players that he's cost us a few goals and he has to kick on if he's to consider himself a starter week in, week out next season.
Well, he's going to have to be next week, and it's looking as though it could possibly be Davies. Look, Raskin came on the park as well. Towards the end, we got Yilmaz back on the pitch. Can't really say too much about Raskin because he wasn't on the pitch for long, right? And there's absolutely 0.000 chance he starts against Celtic unless we have a major injury crisis during the week, which with it being Rangers is absolutely possible, Davey. But we got a wee bit of Yilmaz. Do you expect that he got long enough on the park that he will start next week? Or do you think the manager will say it's too risky?
I think he has to take the gamble, Martin. Borna Barisic is a player with far too much scar tissue, and we can't afford that next week. We can't afford to defend passively, and we can't allow them to run at us. And I think the crucial thing for me in regards to Yilmaz is he looks to take us up the pitch just as quickly and turn the opposition, and he's got the much needed pace that we probably won't have in the left-hand side with guys like Sima and Matondo possibly still injured for next week. So, it has to be Ridvan. If he gets injured and then we have to take him off, fair enough. But I'd rather start with him and lose him than go into the game with Borna. For me, that can't even be considered an issue.
Well, this is the point I'm going to take to Charles' second super chat, Davey, right? Play like that, the piggery. We get pumped. Said it for some time now. This team's not got the bottle, and I stand by it. And the reason I bring that question up. So, in your opinion, then Ridvan has to start. I'm trying to think of another player who.
Well,
Lawrence has to start. Is this what you're saying? Because if we play like we played today, next week they win.
We have to match them in the midfield, Martin, and obviously Cantwell is technically our best player in and around the box, so I don't think that you can sacrifice him. I think Dujon Sterling has to play central midfield beside Diomande, and I know Clement would never drop Lundstrom, but I would, because we need legs and legs in the middle of the park. And for me, Sterling is the only guy that gives us that. He can carry the ball. He's got the recovery pace. If they look to break quickly with O'Reilly and Hatate, he's the one guy in our team that can match them going back the way. Bring much needed physicality. And we've got a chance of winning the midfield battle if he's in there. I think he would be wasted out in the right-hand side for that game. And obviously, if he's playing at left back, he would be wasted there. But we've got to sort of think how we can best stop them playing and then look to see how we can impose ourselves on the game.
Is that not what we've done in the past, Davey? We've looked to stop them playing and it's backfired on us.
But I think it's a different argument this time because I think the game will be won in the midfield because that is the strongest part of their team. And I think we have to match them up in there. And if you go Lundstrom and Diomande, Lundstrom will hide in the game if they're dominating it because he'll come and sit on the top of whoever our two centre-halves are. Whereas if it's Sterling in there, he'll look to go and meet them and hit them quick, right on top of them. And that's what we need. We need to look to win the ball and then have somebody that can carry that ball so that when we're carrying it, it's then Cantwell that's getting possession of it when we're sort of 3v2, 4v3 and look to hurt them. For me, that's the only way that we can look to win that game.
Well, to put a more positive spin on things, Stephen Gillespie, who's now been a member for a year. Thank you very much, Stephen, for the support. 4 different scorers today, that's a positive, because the one thing that we were asking in the pre-match, Davey, was we need goals. Where are the goals coming from? And to get 4 different scorers, albeit there's negatives in terms of we could have scored more and certain people could have scored more, but we got 4 goals and it was 4 different scorers.
Yep, absolutely. Can't argue with that. And I think, as I said, it could be a timely confidence booster for guys like Suter and obviously Ben Davies getting his first goal, because goals do breed confidence in players. I'd like to think that it will have a positive effect on us. I think if you're going to say the only criticism is that it doesn't seem to be enough of our attacking talents that are getting involved still. However, it's good to see that, our detractors or haters, shall we say on social media.
That's easy for me to say.
Put my teeth back in. It's no a Tav penalty, for example. It was good to see that sort of variation in the goals and all a different type of goal today. So I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we finish up, Davey, then we should speak about the man of the match, Mohamed Diomande. Again, I feel a bit sorry for him in terms of the players that he's got round about him, because I don't think we have seen any. And by the way, before people jump on me, I'm not saying that he was poor. I thought he was excellent, but I think this boy's got levels that he can go up if he's surrounded by the right players, Davey. I don't think we've seen anywhere near how good this boy can become, and he's already outshining everybody in our team.
Yeah, he's very gifted on the ball. I think I said a few weeks ago, he reminds me of Glenn Kamara in the sense that he can take the ball anywhere in the pitch, but he's different from Glenn Kamara in the fact that he'll do it in the parts of the pitch that will matter. Yep, he'll look to take up, the positions in offensive areas of the pitch, which will hurt teams, and that's what he always looks to do, play forward, and what's the type of pass that I can play, how can I shape my body to hurt the opposition, and we don't have enough players like that think like that, and that's why I'm saying going into next week, you look to play Sterling beside him, because Sterling will allow him to play and impose himself on the fixture, whereas I think if it's Lundstrom in behind him, then Diomande will drop that wee bit deeper. And I think you need to be a bit more brave next week, because it's a game we have to win. So let's go down fighting, trying to win it, and let our best players play in the positions in which they can hurt the opposition. And I certainly think he's the one that can do that.
Lundstrom's far too passive. And see the wee stupid passes that he tries to play, Davey, and he gets us into bother with him all the time. You can't do that against them. You can't. You just can't. I mean, you mentioned it, and I hate to say it, but Matt O'Reilly is a fantastic midfielder who probably won't be at them next season. He'll probably go for big money in the summer because he is that good, and we can't offer him time and space on the ball because he will kill us.
Well, that's it. And I think I'm not trying to single out John Lundstrom, but for me, when Van Bronckhorst was the manager and he had that incident at McDermott Park against St Johnstone and he just let the boy run by him, you know, that for me should have been his last game in a Rangers jersey. I don't care how well he's performed at times when Clermont came in this season. As John Lundstrom always does, he'll flirt with the idea that he might be a half-decent footballer and you might get, 4 or 5, weeks a consistent performance. But then it's a massive drop-off. And the drop-off for John Lundstrom is always when it really matters, when we really need him. And this fixture, I brought it up in the podcast last week. He's had 13 starts in Old Firm games and he's only won 2 of them. And one of them went to extra time. So that for me shows you that we are losing this game and we're losing it in the midfield battle. And John Lundstrom is a massive part of that problem because he allows them to play. He doesn't know how to physically impose himself on them. And he's not got the footballing ability to outsmart them or pass through them. And he's not quick enough, let's be honest.
Yeah. However, we won 4-1 today. The league challenge is still on. Not all is lost. And we go into next week with the possibility, if we beat them, of taking it right down to the wire, and the treble is somehow still on. So I did say that we had a few announcements to make for the regular viewers. Going into next season, there's going to be a few changes. The phone-in will be scrapped, effectively. There will be no phone-in next season. You will have your usual Monday night podcast at 7:30. You will still have your midweek members show, and we're going to try our best to keep the Friday presser reaction going. And we're changing the reactions that we do here slightly. There will be no more build-ups from next season, and the reaction to games will be 2.5 hours after the game. This scheduling is really, really difficult. So I'm just trying to look at ways to make it easier for the guys and to make it easier to bring you guys content. So we're shortening the amount of pods that we do so that the quality is better on all of them. The Scottish football show and the women's show will stay the same. We'll just be getting some new time slots, which will be put out on all of our various social channels and on the YouTube community page as well. So a few changes. Hopefully it makes the podcast better. Hopefully it brings you some more quality content, and hopefully we have a better season. I say that we might still win a treble. You never know. But listen, Davie, thank you very much. It was just you yourself today, mate. So
pleasure as always, Martin. Always happy to put my points across. And obviously, I'm a bit like Marmite if the comments is to go by. So I must be doing at least something half right.
Listen, everybody hates me, mate. So don't worry about it. The fact you're Marmite means that you're doing something right. You're doing something right. So listen, thank you to every single person who tuned in, like I say, and I put a note out in the community pages. Thank you to every single person who's watched, contributed, sent in their super chats, liked, shared the videos. We got over 10,000. But we passed 10,000 subscribers this season, which I had planned on doing next season. I just threw it out there, hoping that we would manage it, and we did. So here's to a bright future for the podcast, and here's hoping it's a very good end of season for the Rangers. But we will be back with the Scottish football show tonight, I believe. Yes, 7:30.
I think it's Connor and the guys that's on it. It's my duty to host it next week.
Yep. So we're back with that tonight, and then we're back with the phone in tomorrow night at 7:30. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll speak to you all very, very soon.
Sports Social Podcast Network.